It is the early hours of February 3, 1959. A chartered Beechcraft Bonanza lifts off from Mason City, Iowa, its tiny propeller slicing into a driving snow. Inside the cramped cabin sit three of rock and roll's brightest stars and a young pilot trying to outrun a storm. In that moment, none of them knows that the flight will become one of the most infamous tragedies in music history. As the wind howls outside, our story begins. If you want to keep rediscovering forgotten chapters like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Forgotten History channel.
Put your hands up for stories untold, echoes of glory and hearts so bold. We dig deeper where the truth will glow. Forgotten history, let the rhythm flow.
To understand why the musicians were in that plane, we must travel back a few weeks to the start of the Winter Dance Party Tour. Booked for 24 shows in 24 days across the frozen Midwestern United States, the tour was a grueling marathon. The musicians traveled by bus, often overnight, and the old vehicle's heater kept breaking down in the sub-zero weather. Seats were hard benches and there was little chance to sleep. By the time they reached Clear Lake, Iowa, the performers were exhausted and desperate for a warm bed and clean clothes. Yet night after night the show went on. The vibrant energy of rock and roll brought teenagers to their feet, but behind the scenes it was taking a physical toll on the artists. Charles "Buddy" Holly was just 22 years old, but he had already helped define a new sound. Growing up in Lubbock, Texas, he mixed country with rhythm and blues and learned to write his own songs. With his band The Crickets he recorded hits like That'll Be the Day, Peggy Sue, and Maybe Baby, and his clean-cut style and trademark horn-rimmed glasses made him instantly recognizable. In 1958 he married Maria Elena Santiago and set out to form a new band. Money was tight, so he joined the Winter Dance Party to pay the bills. Frustrated by the freezing bus and eager to get some rest before the next performance in Moorhead, Minnesota, Holly decided to charter a plane after the Clear Lake show. Born Richard Valenzuela in the Los Angeles suburb of Pacoima, 17-year-old Ritchie Valens had become one of the first Mexican-American rock stars. His meteoric rise started when he was still in high school. By 16 he had recorded the bouncy, Come On Let's Go. He wrote the tender ballad Donna for his high school sweetheart and adapted the traditional Son Jaracho tune La Bamba into a rock and roll classic. Success came so quickly that he left school to tour. Valens had always been nervous around airplanes. An accident at his schoolyard years earlier had made him afraid to fly, yet the demands of his career forced him to conquer that fear. On the Winter Dance Party he played every night and slept on the freezing bus alongside men nearly twice his age. He was thrilled when the chance for a warmer flight arose. Giles Perry Richardson, better known as the Big Bopper, was a 28-year-old disc jockey from Texas who turned his radio persona into an onstage act. His deep voice and playful banter electrified audiences, and his 1958 single Chantilly Lace became a top 10 hit. Richardson was also a songwriter. He penned tunes for other artists and recorded novelty songs like Big Bopper's Wedding. At the time of the tour he was married and the father of a newborn son. The long bus rides left him with a bad case of the flu, and during the Clear Lake show he could barely stand. Desperate for a good night's sleep, he set out to secure a seat on Buddy Holly's chartered plane. After the Surf Ballroom concert in Clear Lake on February 2nd, Buddy Holly arranged for a 4-seat plane to fly him and 2 others to Fargo, North Dakota. The plan would get them to the next venue sooner, allow time to rest, and let his bandmates do laundry. The musicians loaded their guitar cases and waved goodbye to their friends as they trudged through the falling snow toward the waiting aircraft. Every decision, every step across the icy tarmac, would soon prove tragically consequential. There were only 2 open seats besides the pilots. Richardson, feverish and aching, approached Waylon Jennings, a member of Holly's backing band, and asked for his seat. Jennings agreed to take the bus. The final seat came down to fate. Guitarist Tommy Allsup and Ritchie Valens flipped a coin. Bob Hale, a local DJ who emceed the concert, later recalled Valens nervously saying, "Is that all right with you, Tommy?" before calling heads. Heads it was. In other accounts, Dion DeMucci won an earlier toss but declined because the flight cost an extra $36. Whatever the exact sequence, that small piece of metal tumbling through the air sealed the lineup aboard the plane. At 12:55 a.m. on February 3rd, pilot Roger Peterson guided the Beechcraft Bonanza into the darkness. He was 21 years old, experienced by daylight but not fully certified for night flying in instrument conditions. Minutes after takeoff, disoriented by blowing snow and without a proper horizon, Peterson likely lost control. The plane plowed into a frozen cornfield roughly 5 miles northwest of the airport at nearly 170 miles per hour. There were no survivors. The crash site was desolate, twisted metal scattered across the snow, a guitar neck jutting from the wreckage. Back in Clear Lake, the winter dance party bus rumbled through the night unaware of what had happened. In the morning, farmers discovered the wreckage and alerted authorities. When the bus carrying the remaining musicians pulled into Moorhead later that day, a stunned road manager, Sam Geller, broke the news. Buddy Holly's pregnant wife collapsed when she heard. The stress reportedly contributed to a miscarriage. Investigators from the Civil Aeronautics Board concluded that pilot error and poor weather were to blame. Meanwhile, promoters insisted the tour continue. Substitute musicians were hired, and in a grim testament to showbiz resolve, the winter dance party rolled on without its stars. Fans were devastated. Buddy Holly had just begun to explore new studio techniques and could have become one of rock's great producers. J.P. Richardson left behind a wife and baby. And Ritchie Valens, barely out of his teens, never had the chance to see how far his talent could take him. At the crash site, mourners erected 3 simple wooden crosses. A guitar was propped against the middle marker, and someone laid a single rose in the snow. Radio stations across the country played their records in tribute. In homes and diners from Texas to California, people wept for musicians who had seemed like friends. Years later, singer-songwriter Don McLean would memorialize the tragedy in his haunting 1971 epic, American Pie. The 8-minute song chronicles a generation's loss of innocence and refers to February 3, 1959 as the day the music died. The phrase stuck, and the crash became a symbol of dreams cut short. Yet the legacy of the 3 men endures. Buddy Holly's songwriting and guitar style influenced bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Ritchie Valens opened doors for Latino artists and proved that rock and roll belonged to everyone. The Big Bopper's on-air charisma presaged the playful rock DJs who followed. Every time you hear a driving guitar riff or a joyful 3-chord chorus, you are hearing an echo of their brief but brilliant careers. Standing in that quiet field today, it is hard to imagine the pain that radiated from this place on a cold February morning more than 6 decades ago. A gentle sunrise washes over the snow, and a lone guitar rests against a fence, reminding us of both the fragility and the enduring power of music. The small decisions, a coin tossed in the air, a choice to charter a plane, teach us how fate can hinge on a moment. Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper left us far too soon, yet their songs continue to inspire. If this story moved you, share it with a friend, leave a comment with your own memories of these artists, and subscribe for more forgotten history. Together we can keep their music alive.